Welcome back to Conscious Not Crazy. I'm Kori, your host, and I'm excited to be back with you. And I'm especially excited for a very good friend and guest that has joined me today, and it's Jordan Ridge. And Jordan and I got to know each other because her and her husband have done some photography for me. So we're going to be here today talking a little bit about motherhood and being a business owner and starting a business. But to get started, I'm going to let Jordan share a little bit about what she's doing, who she is, and how she got to where she is today. So welcome, Jordan.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely.
So like Kori said, I am Jordan Ridge. I am only the second half of Ridge Lane. We are a marketing and creative company here in KC, but we work with companies globally and within the United States, obviously. So we're just crazy busy right now, and this has been like a really nice reprieve to be able to come.
And this
hang
is
out.
new, like what you're doing. So you were doing
Yes.
photography before, and then you
Yes.
were working full time.
No. So just kind of like, I guess, quick backstory. Like I've been in the agency world for the last 10 years.
Right.
Really just kind of in that like hustle culture mindset, like climbing that corporate ladder, especially as like a woman in this space. And it's just been like kind of a crazy venture, but the photography thing, that was like kind of a side gig, and I always like really loved it, and it ended up being something that I was really good at. And what's really fun is that's kind of like carried over into our business, and a lot of our bigger clients, like that's been like what we're doing for them is a lot of photography, a lot of videography. And we just kind of hit the ground running with Ridge Lane.
And they are great. If you want to check out her work, go to my website. Their photography is amazing. They've been super helpful to me as I'm getting up and going with my business. And yes, and I just think I thought it would be fun to have this conversation, because when you're a mom, we have a lot of things on our plate. Not that dads don't, not discrediting the dads out there, but I was a stay-at-home mom I worked in the business world. Well, I started in education. Then I went into the business world, and then I had babies, and I actually got laid off when I was pregnant with our second kiddo, and then ended up just staying home a few years, then going back to education when my kids were little. So it's interesting where the journey takes you. But now starting this and having kids can be a challenge.
Yeah.
Because I always say trying to balance it, there's no real balance in
never.
that. So I admire other moms out there doing what you're doing. So like on a day-to-day, what are some challenges? What are some things that are working? Even what gave you the courage to go out on your own? That's a big step to leave the corporate world.
Sure.
And to go and start your own business.
Yeah. So, just to kind of even pull the reins back even further, before I met my husband, I was a single mom. A lot of people may not know that about me because my child literally looks like the perfect blend between like me and my husband, which is really awesome. But I was a single mom, starting out in corporate, and, I really had to like figure out my journey in a way that was different than what most people do when they decide to jump into corporate and climb that ladder. It was a lot of like calling my boss and hoping like my kid's sick because I got a call saying, hey, he's running a fever, or like, I don't know, something along the lines of that. And me having to call my boss and just be like, hey, like I literally have no other options. Like he's a good kid. Like, can he just come chill, So I think like I had to find that balance like really early on from day one, even in corporate. And it really wasn't even, I guess, necessarily a balance for me. And I just kind of learned this, and I'll like jump to that after this. But I had to figure out a way to make these two things like work in tandem together.
Right.
Yeah. And so I think being a single mom really like helped me push myself forward to want to climb the ladder, but also like I had this like little person cheering me on, like I wanted to succeed for him. So yeah, and then now fast forward to today, just making that decision to leave corporate was huge. It was scary because I had that financial security. But the day-to-day looks different every day. People say, oh, like when you're an entrepreneur, you work for yourself, you have all this freedom. And it's like I do, but I don't. Like,
yeah, you have flexibility. You can
Yes.
pivot.
Yeah.
You can stay up all night and work if
Yeah.
if that's what you have to do to get the job done
Yeah.
because your child needed you during the day. So
Yeah.
you have that.
Yeah.
But there's still deadlines. There's
Yes.
still things that have to get done.
Yeah.
So, and if you're working from home, it's
Yes.
harder.
Yeah.
You're not physically leaving your home to go to work,
Right. Yeah.
which can be a challenge.
Yeah. And I think just kind of like moving into that day-to-day space, like one thing like we've made as non-negotiables is we all have breakfast together.
Which is great.
Yeah. So we all sit down, we have breakfast together, which I love. Is such a great way to start the day. And then he kind of goes and does his own thing while I get my day started. And then I've kind of made it to where I have an open door policy, but he knows like if I'm on a call, he just like doesn't come in.
Right.
Like, he pokes in and he goes, oh, nope.
Can you
leaves.
come teach my 16-year-old how to do that?
This may not last forever. I don't know.
I'm just teasing. No,
Yeah,
my
no.
kids are pretty good too because I do. We're in my house right now.
Yeah.
So my office is in the basement of my house, and this is where I do my recording, and my kids know. And I have a dog that could start barking. I mean, anything can happen. But what I have, and I'm not perfect at it, and I love to say better, not perfect, is embracing that and not thinking it has to be perfect, and hopefully being a model for them, which is what, a model in what it looks like in the grind and starting your own business, that things take a lot of work.
Yeah.
They take a lot of persistence. You're going to get told no a lot. And embrace the no and keep moving forward. No just means not right now or not yet, or maybe not a good fit. And it wasn't meant to be. There's a faith piece in this for me too.
For sure.
But I want my kids to see that anything is possible if they put their mind to it. That doesn't mean the path will look like we think it's going to look in our head. I think oftentimes we get a vision in our head of how we think something's going to look or how we want it to look. We have to be flexible and learn to pivot. But I love that. So boundaries, you get to practice boundaries with your son.
We do. Yeah. And that's kind of, there's a piece like that I just recently kind of learned because, mom guilt is so real.
Yeah.
And it's become even more real, like weirdly in entrepreneurism, because I used to think, oh, like if I'm in agency world, if I'm in corporate, like I'm not showing up fully. But even though that was my non-negotiable, I was like, I'm going to all my kids' things. I want to pick him up from school. I'm dropping him off at school. Like no ands, ifs, or buts. But now being an entrepreneur, it's like a whole different level of, I don't know. To me, it's not necessarily a balance piece. It's like figuring out how to make them work in tandem, because I thought it would be easier. And in fact, it's like a little bit harder because the mom guilt sets in of me going like, now that I work from home and work for myself, I start work at 8:30 and then like I continue on until like 6:30. And I'm like, I probably should stop and like now have intentional time with my child and my family. And it doesn't help that my husband and I are business partners. So we're both doing the same thing, but it's having those like really open conversations too with our son and going like, hey, this isn't forever, but this is like the kickoff. This is what it looks like. This is what,
there's something to be said. I've had a lot of conversations with a couple other parent friends recently on, as parents in this day and age, we love our kids. We don't want them maybe to feel some of the pains of our own, and I say pains of our own childhood, not as in trauma, but we'll call them, like we maybe didn't have someone that validated feelings, or we had to figure out how to eat, or, and I'm not speaking to my situation specifically or anyone, but just in general, we were kids that were raised in a generation of children should be seen and not heard. And now, and do as I say, not as I do, go outside, come back when it's dark. We were pretty self-sufficient, at least, and I'm a little bit older. So we were pretty self-sufficient. And I think what's happening, or what I see, and I'm even guilty of this as much as I know not to, we've done too much for our kids. And there's been this, it used to be that the child would jump in and be expected to help bring in the groceries and kind of serve the adult to some degree, because, back in the day, they had to help on the farms. People had more kids, so they had more help. And now everything's revolved around the child. And with that, I think we're creating some of our own problems. There's this They lack the work ethic and the
Mhm.
grit. And I have two teenagers. So I'm
Mhm.
in the thick of this balance of, yeah, if you're capable, you can do it.
Mhm.
You know, my daughter one morning was like, Mom, eggs. Literally, that's what she said. And I just looked at her. I was like, how about we try that again? And again, I want to make them eggs sometimes
Yeah.
because I love them and I like doing things for
Mhm.
them. But I'm also like, if I'm busy
Mhm.
and I have work to do,
Yep.
just because I'm home doesn't mean I'm available. And that gets harder
Yeah.
because you have guilt by telling them no or saying no. But I think we're actually doing them a disservice by doing too
Mhm.
much. Because I just talked to my 16-year-old. I'm like, you have 2 more years home before you go off to college or, out into the real world where
Mhm.
you're an adult. And I'm not serving you by continuing to do all of your laundry and all of the
Mhm.
things you're capable of doing. And the thing is, they want responsibility. They want to have opportunities to do these things, and we want to loosen the reins a little bit and give them a time while they're under their roof, so when they make mistakes we can coach them and support them.
Mhm.
But I think it's an interesting balance. It's like, because in the world sometimes we're often, I'm guilty of this too. Well, are we being judged as a parent? Like I'm a lazy parent or I'm not willing to help. It's like, no, I'm willing to help my child, but
Yeah.
is that helping my child?
Sure.
So I feel like we need to reevaluate that in the world
Yeah.
of parenting and support each other and letting go.
Mhm.
Kids are capable.
Yeah. Very
Kids are
much so.
so capable, and we're just not giving them
Mhm.
enough opportunities. Yeah, my kids are making their eggs now this summer.
Hey, I love that. Yeah, no, I mean, this even yesterday, I was having this like mom guilt because, we had breakfast really fast. It's like the day kind of kicked off really fast. It was a Monday,
Right.
but we were like, we're gonna kick things off quick. We're gonna jump right in. And all of a sudden I like look at my clock and it's like 1:30 and I'm going, oh my gosh, like we haven't ate lunch. I haven't fed my kid,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I walk out and I'm like, hey man, like, are you hungry? He's like, no. He's like, I made my own lunch. And I was like, oh, I'm like, what'd you have? Cereal and yogurt. And I'm like, cool.
Cool.
At least he's, yeah. It's like probably not the most ideal lunch,
That's
but I was
okay.
like, dude, good for you. Like, way to own it. Like, way to jump
Yeah.
in and just kind of like get it
That's
done.
better than
So,
expecting you just to jump.
mhm,
And he probably saw that you were busy, but just
mhm,
him assuming that you're going to do it all for him. I think
yeah,
that's great. There's autonomy in that. And then maybe there's coaching on, I think that's great that you ate the cereal because
yeah,
you were hungry and
yeah,
you took care of yourself. But let's talk about, what are some other things we could eat? What do
totally.
we typically eat for lunch? I
For
mean, that's a
sure.
whole nother,
Yeah,
it's just a coaching opportunity.
for sure.
And that happens. I'm the same. I get hyper focused and then it could be like
Oh,
6 hours later.
yeah, it's sad. I was like, oh no, but
The kids will come down and be like, are we going to eat dinner? And I'm like, what time is it?
like, oops. Yes,
Yeah,
yes, we
no,
are.
it does happen. So I get that. But yeah, it's one of the things. There was a moment when I was at a work conference, listening to some speakers. It was probably 3 years ago. And this particular speaker, he was a business owner of a huge business. It was about a $500 million business. So a
Mhm.
big business. And he was on stage and he was in the middle of speaking, and he would bring his kids to the functions, and he would even allow them on stage sometimes. And in this case, the kids were on stage. Well, he's in the middle of telling this story,
Mhm.
and there's probably 700-800 people listening in the audience. And his kid's tugging on his shirt or whatever. And he stopped and he took his headset off, and you could kind of hear the muffled conversation between him and his son. And I was just sitting there, and it was this awe. I was just in awe of this moment, of this person that's a high performer in what could be a stressful situation for
Mhm.
many. And I could have pictured myself in that moment shooing off my kid, like, can't you see what I'm doing here?
Yeah.
And instead, he paused, he paid attention to his child, he had a conversation with them, and then he kind of joked about it. He's like, where was I? And just went right back to it. And I
Mhm.
was somewhat enamored by that moment
Yeah, totally.
because he didn't skip a beat. He was okay with it not being perfect.
Mhm.
And he makes his kids part of his journey. And I
Yeah,
love that, because I think I used to see it as being a mom as a separate thing and being a
right.
business owner or work as a separate thing. And I'm like, wow, what a cool thing to integrate the two.
Mhm.
And now it's this cohesive thing that we're modeling these things for
Mhm.
our kids, because our kids, I say this all the time, are watching what we do
Mhm.
way more than what we say.
For sure.
But yeah, that was a moment when I just sat back in awe.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that that's something that like Colin and I have done a really good job at, is like really incorporating him in this journey. I mean, I think it was like even right when we kicked off, we were driving somewhere and he goes, "Guys, I have 5 business ideas that I need to share with you."
That is amazing.
So it's like he's like seeing us being able to dream and like build things, and seeing that it is tangible to be able
It's
to do those
possible.
things, which is really amazing. But even just the other day, we were in the car and he just said, I think it's really cool that you guys started your own business. And I was like, thanks. I'm like, why do you think that? And he goes, you get to use all of your creative ideas for yourself. He goes, you don't have to share them with anybody else, but you get to share them with people who you want to share them with and help make their brands and their businesses better. This is my 10-year-old.
That is amazing to
Yeah.
have that to be able to have that perspective at such a young age.
Yeah.
Wow, that is
Yeah.
amazing. Well,
He's
you're
great.
doing something right. I
He's great.
love it. I love it. I love the entrepreneur mindset too. My
Yeah.
son's like that. Both my kids actually are pretty creative in that way. And they were lucky because you've been to their school, Bambini, where they
Yeah.
got to go to school because it's a very entrepreneur-based education.
Mhm.
And to that point, that's something lacking in traditional education.
Totally.
Traditional education is really stifling kids. It's
Mhm.
teaching them a lot of limiting beliefs, what they can't do, not focused on what they can.
Mhm.
So as parents, we've got to work extra hard to instill that in them. So this is awesome. Another reason why him watching you and being a part of that journey is so amazing. I love it. Yes. Yeah, I do. My son's going to do a pod. We keep saying that I need to do it. Just time. My kids are activities are crazy. Whole nother thing I'm like one day at a time. What's on today's schedule? People will be like, wait, someone in my family will be like, can we take a trip and go here? I'm like,
When?
that's a lot to think about right now.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm like, I don't know what the activities look like and all the things, but yes, my son's going to do a podcast with me. We're going to talk a little bit about education because he had that untraditional education for all those years, and now he's in a more traditional educational setting.
Mhm.
And I want to have just a real conversation with him about what that was like from his perspective, because kids are they really open my eyes. When I get to work with kids, I love it because I learn so much, and it's so amazing when you ask them those great questions, what they say, and you never know what's going to come out. Yeah, I love it. Okay, so there's a mom out there. There's a mom out there somewhere that has an idea. She's creative, but she's not doing the thing that she knows she's meant to do. So what advice would you give to the person sitting out there that's hesitant to take that first step? I have some ideas on this, but I want to hear what worked for you and maybe some of the daily struggles in that, because I know that exists too.
Yeah. No, I mean, I guess like the one thing I always say is like, just do it, which is obviously way easier said than done.
Right.
But I held on to the safety of corporate, like just in my situation, I held on to the safety of corporate for so long that actually it was like in a very quick moment of like this door being opened and I had like literally 2 choices. I was like, you know what, I'm going to take the road less traveled and I'm going to just like dive straight in and just like figure it out. And I did, and I got myself connected. I guess that's a key piece to this, is like really connecting yourself with like-minded individuals. 'Cause
100%.
it's one thing to like have friends that you go and like have these conversations with who don't like get it.
And they don't understand, and it can be discouraging.
It can be, because that's what big conversations we were having in the beginning is like, we have some really great friends we'd share all these exciting things with, and it just
They don't
like
understand.
doesn't snap. And then my husband would be like, oh, but I feel guilty like for having this conversation in front of them. And I'm like, why? Like, this is our life. This is what we're doing. But I think the key piece is like really connecting with people who are like-minded. They don't necessarily have to be entrepreneurs, but like, I think that
driven.
They're very driven, like can see that drive in you, from like being an entrepreneur, because again, it's really been like no joke.
It's interesting because in the speaking world, which is a whole different thing, there was a speaker, and I was like, because I go listen to other speakers, I go to other events all the time, and he said he actually had to not talk to some friends at one point, not because he didn't like his friends or it wasn't serving them it wasn't serving him where he was in his journey. And it was creating those limiting beliefs, and he felt like he was having to explain and defend. And when you're in a spot where you're taking the risk and you're
Mhm.
doing the thing that most people never do,
Mhm.
they're afraid to do, or they can't even understand what it would feel like to do that, they're not going to be the most encouraging people. They're going
Yeah.
to be the people that are questioning everything you're doing.
Mhm.
And they'll come up to you and say things. And this is what he said is, hey, are you still doing that thing that you were doing? Like they say it in this way, like, is that working? That thing you were doing?
Mhm.
And yeah, you just learn to get, I would say I'm more quiet when people ask me how things are going.
Sure.
Because there's certain people I know I can have the conversation with
Yeah.
if they have the right mindset. And then there's other people where I'm like, this is going to be me trying to, I don't want to feel like I'm trying to convince somebody about what I'm doing.
Right.
They either see it and get it or they don't right
Yeah.
now. And eventually they will.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because it takes a lot of self belief.
Mhm.
And I agree with you. The only way, so if there's a mom out there wanting to start a business, the
Mhm.
only way you can do it
Yeah.
is do it, take action. Action is what gets you out of fear.
Mhm.
Because what happens is the more activity you have, and I just met with a friend that's helping with some marketing stuff yesterday.
Mhm.
She said the more action you have, the more confidence you get. And that's true with anything. I
Mhm.
mean, the first time I recorded a podcast, I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I did it again. And then I did it again. And then I got interviewed by people. I just said yes, even when I was scared,
Mhm.
and did the thing. And that's what you did.
Yeah.
You got to face your fears. I always say you're going to have more regrets on the opportunities you didn't take. You're going to have more regrets on the things you didn't do, the opportunity you didn't take, the meeting you didn't go to, because you always learn something.
Mhm.
And you're not going to regret doing the thing.
Right. Yeah.
You're not going to, it's going to, anytime I've done the thing, I've gotten something positive
Mhm.
from it. So yeah,
Yeah.
so interesting.
Yeah. And I think even, if you jump in and you do the thing and it doesn't work out, like it's okay.
Pivot,
Yeah. Pivot, do something
pivot.
new. Like it's still a lesson learned. And, I think the thing that like for me anyway is like you just keep going and you keep falling forward because one thing like we hit, it's almost like in every season that you're getting ready to succeed, like there's always challenges that get thrown at you.
100%.
And again, like we're also like very faith-based too, like in our life. And so, we just are like, there's this like warfare around like our success.
Well, and
And
usually right before things are gonna get better, they get harder.
yes. Yeah. And this was like the last 2 weeks for us, like of this month. It's just
Yeah.
been crazy, but it's been such a good like growth and like learning time for us because, like I had car issues for a month and I could have really like let that bother me.
Yeah.
But it was expensive.
So it's mindset. It's
all mindset.
it's
Like,
so mindset.
and you start to go down a spiral. And
Mhm.
I just sat in the space of spiraling. And I had a day where I just went, you know what? I'm going to let myself spiral. I'm going to let myself feel this
Yep.
fear. But then I'm going to like move myself out of this fear
Yeah.
because it's all a mindset shift. Like I just was like, I'm going to journal it. I'm going to write down my action notes. What are my next 3 steps forward? I don't have to think way far ahead, but like, what are my next 3 steps
And I
forward?
love that. And when challenging things happen, I do the same. I have to intentionally. I was supposed to do a podcast recording. I was moving. It was December. This was I guess it was a year and a half ago. But I was moving. It was December, and one of the movers guys, the mover was great. He reimbursed me, but they stole my podcast equipment.
Oh, no.
And I really didn't feel in a good spot to even do the podcast. Well, they stole the equipment. And so I was like, do I scramble? I was just sitting there and I paused. And then I texted the person I was supposed to interview, told him what was going on. She's like, let's just put it off. Like, let's just do it in a month and I was like, okay. And then part of me was in the end, not that I wanted my stuff stolen, but it got replaced. It was things that can be replaced.
Right.
I was like, that was a blessing because I wouldn't have canceled the recording. And I didn't feel like I was in the best mental state to do the recording in that moment.
Yeah.
But because someone stole my podcast. So it's finding the blessing in the bad thing
100%.
or in the difficult thing. And
Yeah.
if we can look at everything like that, and that's something I'm passionate about sharing with my kids. And they look at me, they're like, I know, Mom, it's my choice on how I see it or
Right.
what I think, my behavior is my responsibility. But it's so true. And I don't care how annoyed they get at me. I'm going to keep saying it. I have quotes and stuff all over my house
I love it.
because it's like subliminally.
Yeah.
Read that.
It's like, well, yeah. And it's like affirming too. It's like, that's it's all a mindset journey. And I think that, I have verses sent to my phone, like on the hour, and I have affirmations sent to my phone on the hour, because it's like, you don't have, I mean, I have my husband and my son, and like the best things ever, but like I don't have a team of people that surround me. They're
Right.
clapping their hands saying, "Great job, Jordan."
No,
It's
right.
me championing me
And
championing my
that's the
business.
hardest part.
Yeah, and championing for my why, which is my son and my husband and the life that we really want to build, and
Yeah.
work with the people we want to work with.
I love that. I love that. And you guys do amazing work.
Thank you.
I love it. It's amazing. And they just understand, like, I feel like you guys really understood who I was and the message I was trying to convey. So
Yeah,
I'm blessed. I'm blessed to have had the opportunity to work with you a few times now. So yes, I 100% mindset. And I think there's just too many people out there that are feeling like they're just not ready to do the thing. And the bottom line is, you're never going to be ready to do the thing. You just got to do the thing. Yep. And it's a baby step, and having grace. I love how you said sometimes you just sit and let yourself feel all the feelings. I'm the same. If I'm in a moment, I'm like, okay. And I'm beating myself up internally. I'm not being productive. We tend to focus on the way our brains work. We tend to focus on all the negative things. I stop myself and I'm like, no, I need this to get clarity. I need this quiet time to get clarity, so I know which direction to go next, because it is a little different than what I thought. And it's okay to need a day. We need to have more grace for ourselves, and there is no perfect. So focusing on what we did get done, what did go well, and giving ourselves grace when maybe you need rest. Yeah. Maybe you need to go get a massage. Yeah. Whatever that is I think self-care is huge. And a lot of people don't have healthy self-care. They're just not capable of doing that. They're so just on autopilot and going. And I feel like self-care is a huge part of being a responsible business owner.
Absolutely.
Because you can't sustain a high level of stress for a long period of time. You're going to crash.
You're going to crash and you're going to burn.
And I want my kids to know what self-care, like I'm passionate, like I love to work out and I get up early because I know I want to get out of bed at 4:50 in the morning, sometimes 4 when I get up to work out. No, it sounds horrible. Right. But my alarm goes off and I lay in bed and I'm like, gosh, I could just sleep more. But then I'm like, no, I know I'm going to feel better. My day is going to go better. I'm not thinking about the workout or dreading it. I'm focused on all the good things that come after the workout. Therefore, I get out of bed, and when I'm done with my workout, I feel amazing. Yeah. I'm just in a better mood. Yeah. Everybody's happier because mommy's cranky when she doesn't work out. Her mom, I guess they don't call me mommy anymore, but unless they're teasing me. But actually, my daughter calls me Core.
Oh. You know what's funny is Mason calls Colin Call.
That's funny. No, she just recently informed me that her and her friends call me Core. I'm like,
hilarious.
That's funny. I've had a lifetime full of nicknames.
I love that.
But I love that. Okay, so so tell me your ideal client. Who's your ideal client? And if somebody needs help.
Sure.
And I love supporting, like I always love supporting my friends in business, right? I have a friend that sells jewelry. I love supporting her. I love supporting you guys. So tell us like how we find you, what kind of client you're looking for, or who do you want to help?
Yeah, no. So that's like a really tough question. And it's so funny. Like I have some like mentorship or like a membership group of women that I like bounce ideas off of.
I love that.
There was like a period of time where like they're really like, you guys have to niche down. You have to niche down. And it's like we started to do that. And then we had like 2 opportunities open up that were like kind of big and not within that niche. And we're like, okay, so do we like brush them off and not do them, or do we like continue on? So we decided to continue on, and it was like the best decision that we'd ever made. So I guess in terms of people that we're looking to work for, we want to work with brands who want to tell their story, and they want that like personal touch experience. Because one thing that I think that we do really well that other big companies or agencies don't do is you're not getting that full like personal touch experience where like you have people who actually come in and they do actually care about your brand, and they want to know about what you're doing. They want to learn about what you're doing and like really be able to encompass that. and like let that shine through
I love
on
it.
what you're putting out into the world for people to find your business. And so we take a lot of that very seriously, and we really take the time to get to know the clients that we do work with.
Well, and that shows. It definitely shows. And yeah, and I think that's probably why we connected too, because I would say we're authentic
Yes. Yeah. The
in what
buzzword of
we
the
do.
year. Yeah.
We're authentic in what we do and personable. So
Yes.
yeah, that's
Like, truly.
awesome. Yeah. I just, but it's funny because I was talking to somebody today and so I go to a gym. The gym owner's hilarious. A lot of people would probably go to that gym and be offended. And I go, no, I think it's funny. And I go, I appreciate his authenticity.
Yeah.
He doesn't pretend to be something he's not. And it's a great gym, but it's not everybody's cup of tea for sure. But I appreciate there was a coach one time that my son has worked with, and I didn't love this particular coach, but I admired his authenticity. It doesn't mean I agreed with his modality and how he worked and how he functioned and the way he interacted with the boys, or the way he does interact with the boys, but I admire he doesn't pretend to be something he's not. There's something about authenticity that I appreciate. And I see that a lot in the world, especially with a lot of my female friends. And I think just in general, we tend to show up as who we think people want us to be. And really, we need to be better at just being who we are, and the right people will find you.
Yeah. I just had this exact conversation. So I did some branding for my sister recently, and she's this amazing photographer. She's in Southern Missouri. Like,
Awesome.
yeah, she's amazing. So I just like reworked her whole brand, and it's beautiful and fun and whimsical. Well, she went to this vendor opportunity the other day and was just like, she calls me and she's just like, okay, like this did not go the way that I wanted it to. And I was like, well, in what way? And she just said, I just don't feel like I connected with as many people as I thought I was going to. Like there was this like mean girl mentality and there were these groups. And I said, okay, but did you leave meeting people? And she said, yes. And I said, did you get people's business cards? And she said, yes. I said, you met the people and you got the cards that you were supposed to get that were aligned with you.
Right.
That, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It all aligned. I said,
not everybody is aligned with you.
No, and not everybody's going to be your cup of tea. And that's it kind of goes back into like who we're trying to support.
Well, and like so I help parents and educators, but I'm in the business sector now, and not every business owner has an open mindset. Not every business owner thinks people can change. That's not my business owner. That's not the person I'm going to have success with because they don't even believe it. So I have to go to businesses that are aligned with my belief system, that will get behind their employees and get behind the coaching process, because we can shift mindsets. We can change, we can't change people. Let me rephrase that. We can support people to change their mindset and to change their limiting beliefs if they're willing. There's a certain percentage of people that you're probably not going to change. They're just stubborn.
Yeah.
But there's a much larger percentage of people that have some flexibility there.
Yeah. And I think that goes into like the people that we serve as well, because, we have had people that we are like excited about, and then we actually like meet with them, and all of a sudden we're like, is our energy like gonna match, and is this going to be a good collaboration or a good partnership? And then we kind of were like, no, like it's just not going to, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And that was really hard for me at first
to say no to business.
Yeah, no, yeah, because I'm like a forever like people pleaser, and I just want to make people happy and like make brands beautiful and tell their story. But when it does come down to like the perfect alignment, I think that it's there, and I think it just has to make sense. And so, I mean, our ideal client is like kind of anybody and everybody. We support a lot of keynote speakers, but we also have clients that I love to call our blue collar buddies. Because
Oh, I saw you guys were in a yoga. Was it a yoga studio?
Yeah, it's Pilates.
Pilates.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. So we work with like wellness instructors.
I love it.
We support a plumber who's fantastic.
That's amazing. Yeah. No, I love it. I love it. Cause I do think you can limit yourself. I agree. Cause people have told me that as well. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Why? Not with my crazy brain.
I know. Same. Yeah. I think this is where ADHD like comes great into play, because you could do a lot of things for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And like your brain's able
and I do work with people to help me narrow down what I need to focus on in this moment. Yeah. But no, that's the stifling. We don't want that. Okay. So if someone wants to work with you, how do they find you? And of course, I will put this information in the show notes. So you don't have to, if you're driving and listening to this, you don't have to write it down. You can just look at the show notes.
Yeah. No. So if you want to find us, you can go to www.ridgeln.com. That's RIDGE.LN.com. Or you can follow us on social, which is hello.ridge.lane
I love it.
at Instagram. And then also I do a lot of like my own like personal branding in motherhood and entrepreneurship on my own social channel. And that's Jordan Donnell Ridge on Insta. So yeah.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. Well, I have a vision. I want to have a women's conference here
I love it.
in the next, I don't know when,
Yeah.
but when I do,
Yes.
we're going to have to partner. That'll be fun.
Yes, 100%.
Because I just have a passion for, and nothing against the guys out there.
Yeah.
Love
you're
guys
fine.
too. But I just feel like in that regard, the topics I want to talk about would be more aligned with just women. So,
Yeah. And I think women
supporting women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so special and so neat. And I've been having a lot of those conversations lately with other women too. And it's just been like a huge blessing in my life as I'm kind of on this journey, and it's still really new, but really great. And yeah, it's awesome to be able to open these doors and to have these conversations with other women who also support
I
women.
love it. And we
So-
met each other through a mutual friend.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure did.
We
Yeah.
did. So that as a business owner.
Yeah, it totally. Yeah, I guess so. Huh?
Well, thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
coming on.
Yeah.
And we will have to meet again.
Yes, we will. Thanks.
And I can't even see. Let's